I think the exposure to so many unbelievable listings has given me good sort of a good grounding of what is possible if you get a bit creative and spend a lot of time on Pinterest. And I feel sorry for poor designers these days. I don't know if it's a job with any future because all you got to do is jump on Pinterest and just copy styles, you know?
Hey, welcome to the show, Leading and Growing Your Real Estate Business. This is Coach James Short, aka Shorty, and this is a show for those within the real estate industry wanting to lead and grow their real estate business. It's a series of interviews that we conduct for those within the industry. So we're finding out what those leaders are within the industry, what makes them tick, what's their story, what are their strategies, and how to become the leaders and the growers within the industry. But also, it's an interview series with those outside of the industry. I'm always a big believer of looking at a whole different part of the pie rather than just focusing on one part of the pie. Because what it does, it allows you to have a different perspective, allows you to get snippets or golden nuggets from those outside of the industry that can look in the industry and go, there's a different perspective. And so I encourage you to reach out to the guests. I encourage you to lean into these series to find out how can these pieces of information, experiences, stories help you lead and grow your real estate business. Hi, and welcome back to another edition. And this time we are very excited to bring back on the show Dan Nasso from domain.com.au. He is a mover and a shaker within the industry. He looks after key accounts on the Mid-North Coast, Northern Rivers, and New England. Today, we're excited because we're going to go down a couple of different rabbit holes. We're going to be talking about client relationships. We're going to be talking about data insights, and we're going to be talking about marketing. So let's get the man of the moment back into the show. Dan, mate, thanks for joining us.
James, always a pleasure, mate. It's good to see you again.
Mate, lots been happening since we caught up last. Gosh, it would probably be about 8 to 12 months ago.
Yeah.
What's been the layout of the land since then? What's exciting things you guys been up to?
Oh, mate, I think more recently, as we are just discussing off air, is the huge acquisition from a big American commercial real estate company called CoStar. So we've been going through the process with their acquisition, and that's coming to fruition at the end of this month, which will be huge.
Game
I can't
changer.
understate what a massive impact that will be on Domain. So we're all very excited, a little bit nervous, but we're very excited to see what these guys can bring to the table.
And the CEO, as you're mentioning, is really clear on what he wants to achieve and what he wants to do. Are there any sort of insights of some planning or projects that they're looking to launch?
Not at this stage.
Okay.
Yeah, not at this stage. It's business as usual for us. But I know particular company's got very deep pockets.
Mm.
And they're looking at investing heavily in obviously building our audience, and as the CEO keeps saying, like bringing better value to our clients as well, which will be great.
Huge, right? Because at the end of the day, it's for the agents selling the homes, so or renting the home. So it's going to be a great flow-on effect, as you said, to really create more value for those end users, which would be great. Super exciting. Super
Yeah.
exciting.
And look, I think also for the team at Domain as well, especially, I mean, not so much for myself because, I live on the mid-north coast and I'm very happy with my lot up here. But I think for especially for the team in the major cities as well, the younger team members, that there's so many opportunities for them to grow their career. And even, potentially work, in the US, or my understanding is there's about 17 different portals right across the globe. So there's some
Wow.
opportunities there, for career advancement, for those who wish to do so.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, let's dive into the one of the key areas of client relationships because obviously we're briefed on that with CoStar joining and taking over the ranks. But talk to me about the client relationships. Where do you see what's working, what's not working? How do people develop that? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, look, I'm really, really fortunate that I wouldn't say cherry picked, but kind of I've cherry picked the biggest and the best and the closest relationships along the mid North Coast, Northern Rivers, and the New England. And because of that, I've like the relationships I have with my clients are phenomenal. I always feel a bit guilty because I live here in Port Macquarie and I have so many clients here in Port Mac, and I'm so accessible and I can see them, pretty frequently. But like even, I've got clients in Tamworth that just ring up, weekly, what's the market doing? What are you hearing? They just ring up for a bit of a chat and a bit of a spitball. So it is so important. I can't sort of express how important it is to have those really solid relationships. And the thing is with me, most of my clients do as much as they can possibly do on domain and our closest competitor as well. So quite often they just, they'll hit me up for data insights or advice, or sometimes they even get me out to have vendor meetings. Um, and sometimes vendor meetings, with regards to with a view for price change as well,
Yep.
which is always interesting. And I think from those invitations, it just shows a level of trust that the clients have, with me and with Domain, which is yeah. I had one client ring me up on a Saturday, and I took his call, and he's like, I helped him through an acquisition. He just bought a couple of offices, and rang me up on a Saturday. I took his call, and he's like, I just wanted to say, Dan, thanks. Thanks very much for all your assistance over the course of the last few weeks during the acquisition. It was very, very stressful. I consider you not only just a great representative of Domain, but I also consider you a friend. And he reiterates that pretty much all the time. So it's yeah, and it's the same with me. Likewise, I consider a lot of my clients to be friends.
And do you find that being that having that availability and being that trusted source of advice in the key areas that you focus on, that has, as you said, has built that trust, so people can come to you, ask questions, get insights, but then which will then in turn helps them maybe put a deal together, maybe help with a vendor, help with negotiation. Is that your viewpoint around being that trusted source and being available?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I think you and I, James, we got the easy job, in real estate because it is a bloody tough business.
Yeah.
I did it and I often say this, I did it for 5 minutes about 15 years ago, and I was just like, wow, this is not what I was expecting, because it is a grind. It is a grind, and like I never begrudge the success that agents have, because anyone who's successful within real estate has worked bloody hard to get to where they are.
Yep.
So I like to have a deep understanding of their world. And, at the very least I can do is try to assist them in their day to day to make their life a bit easier, because it is a very challenging, very competitive a business. And the general public just don't really have a good handle on how challenging it can be sometimes.
So true. So talk to me about those client relationships where you've actually helped them, provided information. What has been the end result for your client by using that information? Give us some examples around that.
I think sometimes, especially like, and this is sort of thinking about data insights. Like sometimes, no matter how, like a listing might be on the market for say 6 months, the vendors, getting anxious. The agents are getting anxious, and no matter what the agent tells the vendor, they just have a belief that their property should sell for here when it should really sell for here.
Yep.
And stats don't lie. We've got data that can actually show the vendor that, everyone in the market has actually seen it, but they just don't see value at that particular price. I always use the Facebook analogy. I went into a vendor meeting once, and the vendor was, rusted on to this particular price. And, we were looking at the stats, and she's like, I just don't think people are seeing it. And I was like, well, they are. I mean, you've had 10,000 views and you've had 100 inquiries. And then on the way out, I said to the vendor, look, do you ever put anything on Facebook Marketplace? And she goes, yeah, yeah, all the time. And I said, well, when you list something on Facebook Marketplace, I said, how long do you wait when you're not getting any inquiry? Do you realize this, obviously the price is too high? And she goes, oh, usually a couple of days. And I said, well, I don't want to be flippant, but I said, real estate's exactly the same. I said, it has a
That's
shelf, it
great
has a shelf
analogy.
life, and it has a shelf life. And then once it gets past that expiry date, I said, people, everyone's seen it. So you're only really presenting that listing is only new to that very small percentage of new people that are just coming onto the market.
Yep.
And I walked, and she kind of, she didn't want to hear that. And I walked out, and I was like really worried that the agent was going to blow up on me. And the phone rang. It was the agent, and I was like, g'day. And he's like, thank you so much. I've been trying to tell her that for ages. So yeah, look, and it's tough. It's a tough business, and you don't want to dash people's dreams and expectations of achieving
Mm.
that dream price. And in awesome markets that they happen frequently, but in markets that we're currently experiencing where there's not a lot of activity and a lot of people on the peripheral looking, but they're not necessarily making contact with agents. It's tougher to get higher prices.
And I think, though, I think you hit something really important because having a trusted advisor like yourself to come into either a meeting or just to, get certain feedback from allows either the vendor to be put at ease, having another perspective where this is your lane, this is your expertise, this is what you do, compared to hearing it from an agent, time and time again.
Yeah.
And as you said, the stats don't lie. Here are the figures. Here's the data. This is what it's telling us. This is what the situation is. And I think being that of having that availability like you do, and being there as a resource for agents, I think it's gold because you're in there sort of you're in their corner helping them to obviously to put deals together, to close deals, but you're also that trusted advisor, which is, I think, huge. And in relations to the data insights, I mean, there are so many different data insights that you go through. What are the key ones that most agents are using through Domain? But what are the ones that maybe need to be used more when it comes to data insights? Hey guys, just a little side note here. How's it going? Are you on track this year? I know that sometimes this part of the year we can feel like we're in a bit of a grind, a bit of in the trenches. Are you on track from the original plans that you set out for the rest of this year? What I've realized is that with this time of year, we get so distracted and we've got trying to chase so many shiny balls and go down so many rabbit holes. And that's why I created a program called the 90. It's a framework that actually allows you to achieve more in 90 days than ever before. Some of the feedback that we've got from some of the people that have used the process, the 90, is that they've achieved more in 90 days than the whole previous year. So if you'd like to have the tools, have the techniques, have the framework on the 90, so you and your team can achieve more in 90 days than ever before. What it does, it impacts you of how to get clear, what you need to do, and who you need to be to show up in order to achieve the things you want to achieve over the next 90 days. Simply head over to jamesshort.com.au, click on join the waitlist, fill in your details, and one of the team members will be in touch and take you through the 90 framework. On with the show.
Yeah, look, and the agents play to the audience of their potential vendors. Because quite often one of your clients and my clients, he asked me at a conference once, Dan, if you were back in real estate, what would you be using, to get win listings? And, I'd be all over the data the reports that I have access to right now, but I might bore a fairly decent percentage of my client base by showing them to them. So you have to obviously adapt to the types of people you're presenting to as an agent, because sometimes people just want to have a chat. They just want to have a rough idea of what you think it's worth, and you talk to them about the marketing conversation might be 2 minutes. Whereas this is what I do. All day long I work in the world of marketing. So for me, that the if you can hear some snoring in the background, that's my dog. I don't know if you can hear.
I can't hear
That's good.
it.
But for me, like I might, if I was an agent again, I might walk into a lounge room and want to speak, 15 minutes to marketing and another 15 minutes to data, and they might not be interested in that whatsoever. They just want to build a relationship, sort of get a sense of who I am. But look, I mean, there's so much like with the clients these days. They can with the agents, they can walk into a lounge room now and say, look, in the last 30 days, property like yours at a particular price point, we know that the inquiries are coming from these particular postcodes. Um, they can also, for listings that have been on the market for a while, they can show the vendor, the people that are looking at their property, what they're also looking at, the comparables as well, and whether or not the comparables and the competition are actually getting more or less views and more or less inquiries. So, I mean, there's
Incredible.
no secrets anymore, you know. You know,
Incredible. It's all out there.
well, that's you know, sort of probably showing my age, but the first place I ever bought in Manly was, you know, I bought it in the back of the Manly Daily, and it was just a little print ad with a border around it. It's like one bath, one bedroom, one car, see owner, you know. And that's what you had to do in those days, you know. Whereas,
Totally.
you know, like these days, you know, buyers, sellers, there's so much information out there, so. Um,
But it also goes to, I mean, a great point that you made. You can have all the data in the world, but you still need to have those communication skills and build those relationships with, you know, with your vendors, with the buyers. So yes, this is a tool which is a very important tool, but at the end of the day, it's how you use those tools in those conversations that you have and how you position those data points as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm exactly the same, you know, and I sort of preface most of my meetings, but I'm not just here to sell you stuff, you know.
Yeah.
You know, hand on heart, and most of my clients who will watch this podcast will have heard me say this, but you know, it's literally my job to help them win more listings and sell them as fast as they can. Because you know, when they're successful, you know, I'm successful, Domain's successful as well. So that's it's in all of our interests that you know, listings, you know, sell for a great price, and sell as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so true. So the successful agents that you're in communications with, what are some of the data points that they're using when they're in those lounge rooms?
I think it's more the features that they have at their disposal as well. I mean, we have
Okay.
things like early access, so people will actually come to our site if they're genuine about buying a property, or they might even be genuine about selling. They'll come to our site, create a profile for themselves, do a search, save that search, and then they'll agree to us sending them information about new listings that match that search criteria as well. Quite often, I feel like I'm banging my head up against the wall sometimes with the agents because I say, look, you got to use this feature called early access because it's just a really good way of tapping into high intent buyers that want information about new listings before they actually go live on the portal. So there's a lot of different features, and you know, we're a prop tech company. We roll out new stuff all the time, and you know, there's other prop tech companies that are rolling out new stuff all the time, and there's CRMs and there's property data, and there's so much information out there that I don't blame them for forgetting to use various things because there is just so many features and benefits for each of the big companies that they have access to that is probably a bit overwhelming for them sometimes as well. And they have different people telling them, you know, you should use this or you should use that, or you should be on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or you know, there's so much stuff that they have to remember. You know, but you know, and quite often with the agents, they'll use whatever is working for them and
Yeah.
forget the rest.
Yeah, so true. So true. So marketing. So what else can you share with what you're noticing in relations to marketing out there at the moment? What's working and what's not working?
Like Facebook, or even print, you know.
Yeah.
So I look after the Northern Rivers, and a lot of my clients in the Northern Rivers are still big proponents of print.
Hmm.
Um, you know, especially if you look at the main magazine that comes out through the Australian Financial Review and the Sydney Morning Herald in Sydney, the Age in Melbourne, like especially at your neck of the woods, James, up and around the Byron Shire. A lot of them are trying to tap into that Victorian audience.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for big, you know, executive listings, print is still definitely a consideration. But we're getting like incredible results at the moment from Facebook.
Okay.
Um, Recently, I met with one of the teams here in Port Mac to show them the most viewed listings in the Port Mac, Manning Valley, and Great Lakes region. The top 13 most viewed and inquired listings over the course of the last 24 months had actually come as a result of these Facebook campaigns that we're running as well,
Wow.
based on its retargeting facility.
Yep.
But you know, it's but still, even saying that. it blows my mind that I might get a call from somebody up in Byron, and they'll say, "Oh, can we just do the standard stuff on your site on Domain and our closest competitor?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, yeah. What's the address?" And it might be 30, it might be Brownell Drive, Waddy Beach, and you're like, "Are you kidding me?" It's like every house in there's worth 20 million, So, yeah, so there's no quite often the agents think, "Oh, well, that's Byron Bay, they have, unlimited resources when it comes to marketing, but you still get people trying to save a buck in those those exceedingly affluent areas as well.
Very true, very true. So, what's coming up for you personally and also professionally? What's some exciting projects that you're working on? I know you've got the CoStar thing happening, which is going to be exciting. Any other personal projects, any other professional projects over the next 6 to 12 months?
Personal, I'm getting back into the water again. I've been out with surfers here, which has been a long ongoing process. Anyone who's had it or had the operation, and I'm pretty sure most of my clients will be sick to death of me talking about it. But I've never had an operation before, and it was the operation wasn't bad, but the recovery period was was like 16 weeks.
Wow,
So yeah, looking forward to getting back in the water again once this rain stops and all the filth stops washing out of the rivers. I've finished, like personally again, I've finished finally finished the renovation on my house here in Port, which is
beautiful.
so it's amazing. So I'm really proud of what I've achieved with that, and a lot of the work's been done myself. So it looks. I think the exposure to so many unbelievable listings has given me good sort of a good grounding of what is possible if you get a bit creative and spend a lot of time on Pinterest. Yeah. And I feel sorry for poor designers these days. I don't know if it's a job with any future because all you got to do is jump on Pinterest and just copy styles, pretty much.
Totally, totally.
Professionally, look, I am just like so happy with what I do with Domain. As I keep saying time and time again, I'm still in real estate, but I'm on the peripheral. So, I really enjoy real estate from my perspective, because I'm not in the trenches having those, difficult conversations with vendors and buyers and trying to put deals together when, the amount of times that I hear from agents that have might have had a listing that's been on the market for 6 months. They get it across the line only for something to fall over at the last minute because of, you know, council, missing council plans or DAs or, or finance or even sometimes there's rogue buyers at auctions that disappear. I'm amazed that can still happen, but there was a case down the coast, where that happened. I think it was on a $6 million property.
Oh,
Yeah, 6 mil up your neck of the woods, James, is
yeah,
kind of average, isn't it? But
it
down
is.
here, that's a lot of money.
A lot of money, full stop. A lot of money, full
Yeah.
stop.
So no, but look, no, as I said, I love real estate from my perspective, but I just really enjoy trying to help the agents out with their day to day,
Fantastic, fantastic. So if you could leave a point or two, what would be some advice that you would give to the listeners around the domain experience, around leaning into your products and services? What's one or two pieces of advice that you'd like to share with them?
Yeah, don't be scared of us. Even though we are a big corporation, a big business. As I said earlier, we're not always just here to sell you stuff. We're an incredible resource of information, and you're pretty much only limited by your imagination. You've also got to look at our relationships with Nine Entertainment. The amount. I think every single meeting I do, I talk about. Editorial and content, and how we're always looking for something that's interesting. And this is free stuff, and I have to continuously remind the agents, hey, if you've got anything interesting, if you've got anything amazing, and I always give an example of like those renovated churches and on acreage. We love that sort of stuff because it might pop up on Nine on the property segment on a Saturday morning, or it might be a news story from Domain, or it might turn up in one of our magazines as well. So and I always say to the agents too, don't ever second guess yourself about what we may or may not use, because it doesn't have to be the most expensive property in town. It just has to be something that is interesting. Um, so there's that. But I mean, I always encourage our agents to reach out to me, with whatever, even if they just want to spitball ideas for campaigns or listing presentations, where they need a bit of prep work with regards to some data insights before they get out there.
Yeah, fantastic. And so, where's the best way to get in contact with you if those don't have your details already?
Oh, look, I mean, through obviously through Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, but most of the agents have my details if they just log into Agent Admin through
It's,
Domain and
it's all
call
there.
there. Yeah, and look, most of them do as well. I have keep a constant visual with, I would say, probably about 60% of the agents, probably more so the agents than the principals. Quite unless the principal is a listing and selling agent. Um, like most of the agents I have, you know, constant communications with, which is
Yeah,
good.
fantastic.
Mm.
Fantastic. Dan, really appreciate your energy, your expertise, and your knowledge around everything that you're doing. So important. Thank you very, very much for being on the show today.
Thanks, James. Thanks for your time, mate, and thanks for the invite again.